Stopped going to school. I started drinking alcohol, smoking weed, hanging around with the wrong people, got arrested multiple times, got suspended from school. I was obviously upset because of the divorce. Not sleep in a bed ever again, even now.
He doesn't sleep in a bed?
No, he was a one-woman man.
Do you think that to be successful, you have to have had some form of trauma?
No, definitely not.
So would you say then joining the Royal Marines was almost like an escape for you?
It was absolutely an escape.
Did you lose a few friends?
Yeah.
How was that when you kind of see them one day and they don't come back?
Yeah, it's sad, man. It's very sad. It's fucking young guys, you know, just life gone. I was upset, angry, and frustrated because I was about to die and I had massive regret that I was 21 and had not lived life. This is where the story begins.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Daniel Leese Podcast. If this is your first time, welcome. But if this is, if you're a repeat listener, thank you for coming back. I did notice though, that on the statistics that a lot of people that watch and listen to this podcast haven't subscribed. So if you haven't already and you do love this and you listen to our episodes every week, please go over and give us a follow, subscribe, because it means more than you can know. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And then also if you listen on an audio channel, you can rate the podcast now. And if you rate the podcast, what it does is it helps us rank better on those pages. So whatever you want to give me, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, beggars can't be choosers. If you just give us a ranking and give us a 5-star rating, if possible, then that would be good, because without that, we won't be able to get these amazing guests that we get every single week. So that leads me on nicely to this week's guest. We're joined by an ex-Royal Marine Commando who nearly lost his life when he was serving in Afghanistan. Since then, he's gone on to compete and fight in Muay Thai competitions in Thailand, start his own successful business, and also has a podcast himself. And today we're going to get so deep on this conversation and his journey and just discuss everything to do with how he's been able to evolve over the years since his days in the military. So thank you very much again, guys. It's a pleasure to have you here. And please join me in welcoming this week's guest, Cyrus Rustom.
Thanks, mate.
Is that the right way? Rustom?
It is. Perfect.
Oh, wow. Where's that name from?
Nailed it. My dad's parents are Iranian.
Oh, wow.
Actually. But I've never been to Iran. My dad grew up in the UK and I grew up in Wales. So
Yeah. Nice. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I get some really interesting requests sometimes about people wanting to join the podcast. But when I read your kind of bio, I was like, fucking hell, like this is some story. So I'm really looking forward to kind of getting into things and really just getting a bit deep with it, and just hoping to inspire some people. So
yeah,
give us a brief intro of kind of who you are and what you do.
Yeah. I run my business, which is Boxica, which is a boutique fitness studio based in Studio City, Dubai. I've been in the fitness industry now for 15 years, and I was a Royal Marine Commando for 5 years. I traveled around the world, and my passion is fitness, helping people. I coach people online as well, so I have clients that I help with mindset, nutrition, discipline, and that's pretty much it. But there was some interesting traumas that I've had, and in my life I believe that I went through these experiences in life for a reason.
Yeah,
I believe everything happens for a reason, but I believe the universe puts you through situations and challenges so you can level up. And I had some massive gifts and lessons from these experiences, and as you mentioned, one of them was I was pretty much almost had the life snatched out of me, and you get some unique perspectives on life through almost dying.
Yeah. So rewinds to the earlier years then. So before we come on to obviously your time in the Marines, because this is going to be, and again with the trauma side of things, we will touch base on that. So if anyone's listening, don't worry, I'm not skipping it. I just want to go back to the very beginning, give a bit of context, and take it from there. So yeah, go back to your younger years and so family life. You got brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I had a great upbringing up to around the age 13. So before that, as close to the word perfect as you could imagine an upbringing. Mum and dad together lived in Prestatyn, which is a small town in North Wales.
Prestatyn,
yeah.
Never heard of that place.
It's a beautiful town, but it's very boring. not a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a dog, and we weren't poor, we weren't rich, we were middle class, we had money, we had lots of gifts for Christmas, and we never wanted for anything, and we were very close, right? We lived in the nicer part of town, so life was amazing. And one summer, we went on a family holiday with my mum. It was us kids.
Yeah.
I've got 2 sisters and a brother. I'm the eldest. And we went to Norfolk, and it was a little bit strange because normally we would stay around the North Wales area for our holidays. We'd go camping and stuff in Anglesey and that. And this time we went to Norfolk, and sure enough, this stranger was hanging around with our family and my mum. And I was old enough to kind of understand it was a bit off. And then when we went back home to our house, my parents announced that they were getting a divorce.
Who was the stranger?
It was a guy that my mum had met somehow, and he was a stranger, and he was also a strange man because he was actually a weirdo. He was a bit strange, right?
Yeah.
And my mum had obviously planned to start a new life with him.
And he was on the holiday with you?
He showed up on the holiday.
Where was your dad?
He was working at home.
Okay.
I felt that it was off, and my brothers and sisters were maybe a little bit too young to kind of get it, but I was, 13, and I thought, something's up here.
You start to question things then, don't you?
I was questioning it big time, and as soon as we got back to house after that, my mum and dad were just like, yeah, we're getting a divorce. And in those times, I didn't know too many people that had divorced parents. It was there. It was definitely, I knew a few people in school, but not too many.
Right? And also as well, when you, it's quite funny that you say this because your situation is like, I'm not even joking, like so close to identical to mine. But even when you hear about people getting divorced, you don't understand it. You're just like, it's just weird that your parents and everything you know about growing up is about to change.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it wasn't going to change dramatically. I thought everything was going to be okay. I understood that my parents were splitting up, but the plan was for my mum to get a house in North Wales. I was going to live with my dad, and my 2 sisters and brother were going to live with my mum very close by, and we were going to see each other every day. And life would go on as normal, except my parents were going to live in separate houses.
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't go that way. My dad made it very clear from the get-go that he did not want this to happen. And I'd see him regularly on his knees, crying, pretty much begging my mum, don't leave. And I would join him sometimes, get down and just cry and be like, please don't leave, please don't leave. And I think my mum must have sat down and wrote a list on a piece of paper. What are the actions that I can take from here that will make this divorce most painful for everyone involved? And I think she went down the list one by one and just went tick, 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 tick. I mean, she got a restraining order on my dad, so we couldn't come near the house. She moved in the stranger into the house. So I'm like, I'm like 13. This guy's living in my mum and dad's bed in our house, and his kids are in the house. And my dad's not allowed anywhere near the house. And I found weird naked photos of this guy in the house. Not naked photos, not weird photos, weird naked photos.
Fucking hell.
Right?
Fuck.
And I got dragged to court and grilled by both of their lawyers at 13. It was crazy. And all the arguing and fighting and stress of it all come to this one day where my mum got full custody of the kids and most of the assets and money and stuff. I think it was normal in those days for that to happen. And my dad still wasn't allowed in the house, and she packed up everything. And when I say packed up everything, she left the wallpaper on the walls and took everything. Every single photo of their lives together, 25 years, was gone. All the baby photos, everything stripped. And she told me, get in the car. I said, nah, I'm not going with you. I want to stay with my dad. I know you're in the wrong. I know my dad hasn't done anything wrong, essentially, and I don't want to go to the opposite ends of the country. I know you actually want to do that, although you said you were going to come here. It's quite obvious you're going to leave. And in my mind at that time, because I was a mummy's boy, I was the firstborn, we had a very close relationship. And I obviously loved my mum more than anything. And I thought, there's no way she's going to pick this guy over me. Like, at some point she's going to realize, like, nah, this is more important for me. I'm going to stay in my hometown. And I thought if I was stubborn enough and I just held my ground, that she would realize this and we could have that fairy tale divorce that I had in my mind, right? But how naive I was.
She chose him.
Of course, yeah, she did. Yeah, well, I wouldn't get in the car, so she called the police, and the police come in and said, "You got to go with your mum. The court's ordered it. You need to, go with her." And I just felt this anger inside. It's just everything had just built up, and I wanted to lash out, but I knew if I did lash out, that they were going to grab me and overpower me and just throw me in the car. So I said to the policeman, "Listen, I'm not going anywhere. If you want me to go in the car, handcuff me and drag me into the car. And wherever it is you're taking me, you better tie me down because I'm coming straight back here." So he looked at my mum and said, "Do you really want us to do this? Like, he really doesn't want to leave, So the police left and my mum left. And that was in 20 years after that, I probably spoke to my mum a handful of times.
20 years?
20 years, yeah. And so in that moment when she left, I obviously was heartbroken, 13 years old, mum's gone. And I built up some beliefs in that moment to protect myself. And I know this now because I've done loads of deep work to unravel that.
What were those beliefs that you built up?
So the first one was that relationships don't work. I watched my dad not eat properly for years, not sleep in a bed ever again, even now, and completely.
He doesn't sleep in a bed?
No.
Where does he sleep?
On the couch.
Fuck.
Never slept in a bed after my mum left him. He was a one-woman man, and she did that to him in that way. He's still bitter about it today. Like, he won't get over it.
Yeah.
And so relationships don't work, and that belief became a part of me, right? Everything I did from that moment was relationships don't work. And the second belief that I built up was that, because I woke up the next day, and I don't know what I was expecting, but I was like, I'm okay. Physically, I'm fine. I went about my day, and I was like, my mum's just left me. My sisters and brother have gone, and I'm okay. So I thought, wow, I'm quite strong. I'm unbreakable. I'm stronger than what I think I am. And I actually still carry that belief today. So apart from my son, if anything happened to my son, I'm a broken man. But apart from that, emotionally wise, I feel like I can get through anything. Because I saw my dad and how it broke him. And I'm like, I wouldn't let anyone do that to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, another human cannot do that to me.
Yeah.
Apart from obviously something happening to my son. But so my dad had an interesting way of parenting me. His dad, my granddad, was quite strict, and he forced a career on my dad. He made him become an engineer. My dad wanted to work with animals and be a vet. So my dad, having that upbringing, gave me complete autonomy over my life from 13. I'm talking like, you do whatever you want. There's food in the cupboards. I'm going to give you the £60 a month that the government gives me for being a single parent. I'm going to give it to you. You manage that and do what you want, basically. So I stopped going to school.
Oh, so you stopped, yeah.
I started drinking alcohol, smoking weed, living on not living on the streets, but hanging around with the wrong people, got arrested multiple times, got suspended from school. I was obviously upset because of the divorce, right?
Yeah, you can't express your emotions. Mate, I literally cannot believe how identical our stories are. It's crazy.
Really?
It's
How old were you when your parents divorced?
I was about 12, 13 years old. Same thing. Went down the crime route, drinking alcohol, taking drugs. Like, yeah.
That's
because
insane.
The thing is, you don't understand the emotions. So you kind of, like you say, you find these coping mechanisms. But when you have those coping mechanisms, it only copes to a certain amount, and then you just explode. And sometimes that was in forms of getting super drunk to the point of where you're just like, you wake up and you don't even know where you are, or fighting with people. I had so much anger inside me, and the problem is like, the difference between our situation was that my dad was a bit of an angry man, so like, I don't blame my mum for leaving him, but in the same breath, like the way it all happened and went down, it was very, very not similar to yours as in moving away. We still live in the same town and stuff, but there was a lot that went on that was just like, and it like you say, I sit here knowing exactly how you felt, because nothing else mattered after that. It was just, it was the opposite way around. I had a mum who was so focused on a new relationship that I had full autonomy of my life.
Really?
And it was like, you know, and I don't blame her. I suppose in hindsight, and like you say, doing a lot of work, you just, I suppose, different to your situation, but with mine, it was like she didn't experience love for a very long time. So then when she got it, it was like she just held on for dear life, you know?
Right.
But as a child, you know, you just feel neglected. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so I sit here fully understanding the situation.
Yeah.
Because like you say, when you've got no guidance around you, you're just like, fuck it. I don't want to learn about anything, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to go to school.
No, mate. I didn't understand why I had to go to this place that they were teaching boring subjects. They were boring people. I hated school. I mean, my name's Cyrus. It's not, you know, John or, you know, we were in North Wales. I was one of 3 kids in the whole school that didn't have pure white skin. So I was an outcast. I had just been through this divorce, and I didn't, exactly like you said, I didn't know how to express myself. There's a lot of anger inside and frustration. So I was taking it out with alcohol and drugs. And
do you ever take it out on your dad?
We fought a lot.
Yeah.
But my dad was a sweetheart. I would call my dad at like 4 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and Sunday, pissed drunk in the town next door. And without a doubt, he would say, I'm on my way. Yeah. Dad, can you pick me up? I'm on my way. You know, he would never let me want for anything. If he had money and I asked him for it, he would just give me money. If he didn't have it, he'd say, I don't have it. Yeah. Can't give it to you. So he was always there for me. And because his dad forced a career upon him, one thing my dad did give me, didn't give me any direction or discipline, but he was always there for me. And he always told me, you can do anything you want. Like straight up, if those people can do it, you can do it. And he instilled that belief in me. And he still does today. I tell him my wacky goals, and he's like, if anyone can do it, you can do it. You know, he still says that same.
Yeah.
So he had a unique way of parenting. And don't forget, he was a broken man, right? He was completely broken.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever had heartache before? Have you ever been like broken up from a girl that you really loved?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's painful, isn't it?
Oh, man. Yeah, my first girlfriend, I was with her for 2 or 3 years, and I thought I wanted to split up with her. And the second we split up, it was a phone call. I was in the Marines at the time. I just completely died inside. I was writing her love letters. I was writing love letters to her mom. Like, I was broken. Because
you go through these I mean, you know this from probably doing a lot of work. You go through this self-sabotage where your mind is telling you, like, things are better on the other side, you know what I mean? The grass is greener, and then it fucks you up.
Yeah, I immediately realized in the moment that the phone went down, like, oh, what have I done, you know?
Did she get back with you?
No, she didn't. I'm glad she didn't, because that relationship was not meant to be. I think she'd actually met someone else already.
Okay.
Because I was away in the Marines a lot, and I wasn't really paying her much attention. I kind of like knew that I wasn't supposed to be with her, but I didn't realize how much I loved her.
Yeah.
And so when it broke, I broke. But it lasted like 3 weeks. You know, 3 weeks I was really devastated, crying and writing love letters and everything. And then after that, I kind of got my shit together.
3 weeks in one day, like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah. I like said to my friend the other day, I'm like, I hope she didn't keep those letters, because if she ever brings them out, I'm just going to be devastated.
Yeah. I'm going to take this guy down. That would be hilarious. So how's the relationship with your mum now?
Now, so I went through some work that I did that made me realize that I needed to re-engage with my mom. So I called her for the first time in 20 years, wanting to speak to her. I mean, we had maybe a handful of times contact her attempts, but I wasn't interested. And I realized, and then I called her and I said, I want to build a relationship with you. And we have spoke, and she's come to Dubai a couple of times, and we have a normal relationship. I speak to her maybe like once every 3 months or something. And that for me is, you know, good enough. I talk to my dad weekly, you know, very close with my dad. And I think just because of the distance for so long, I haven't really got that connection with her anymore. You know, I lost that a long time ago, you know?
Yeah.
And there's the sad thing is for me now is not like it's my sisters and brother, you know, because I see them grow up together. They look after each other's kids, and they're very close to each other. And I'm not close to them at all. I'm the outcast, you know. I meet them sometimes when I go to the UK, and, you know, we chat and stuff, but I never call them, never speak to them. It's just I don't really know them that well, you know?
Yeah, that's a shame. That is a shame. I mean, that's one thing that I'm grateful that I have is like really close relationship with my brother and sister.
Yeah.
I mean, even though you do a lot of work on that, it does go to show like the type of character that you are for that. Because even listening to that, I think I would struggle to. There's a part of me, doesn't matter. I mean, I do a lot of therapy as well, but even with that therapy, like there's still like for me, certain people's actions, like when they cross a certain line, I find it very, very difficult to like forgive them fully, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like I hold anything within me. It's just that I just kind of, okay, goodbye.
There is a bit of that there. There is a bit of that. I mean, for sure. I don't have a relationship with my two sisters and my brother because of my mum, you know, and she actually said when she was here that she regrets all of it. And
it's all well and good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
I'm close with my dad. I have a very strong, very close relationship with my dad. I tell him everything and I speak to him, if not once a week, twice a week. And that for me is great, you know?
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, I mean, I remember when I was very similar age to when my parents broke up, and I just had this realization that how I'd saw life was the complete opposite, because you think that everything's good and fine and you get to go out and play, and then these sudden life events happen where you're like, okay, shit, life is real. Bad things happen.
Yeah.
And this is what life is really like. And I think, you know, we don't ever get taught by the Disney films and stuff that these things happen. It's all like happily ever after. But on the plus side, at least you've got a really good relationship with your dad.
Yeah.
Like that's the most important thing, I'd say. And how about friendships? Like, do you have really good friendships with people?
Mate, I do. And I think that's where I made up for the lack of having my sisters and brother around. Especially when I went in the military, that was my family. Yeah. You know, the how close you are to your friends in the Marines, you're very close anyway. But I accepted them as my family. Yeah. And that's one of the best things I got from the military. You know, at the time, I felt like I belonged, and I had all these guys around me. Yeah. And we had similar backgrounds actually. You know, so that was really good for me.
Yeah. I wanted to save this all to the end, but I suppose as we're on the topic, do you think, because I mean, I've speak to a lot of successful people and rarely do they come from really good upbringings. So do you think that to be successful, you have to have had some form of trauma?
No, definitely not. No, I honestly don't think it has much to do with, look, if my parents didn't divorce and I didn't go through almost dying in Afghanistan, I wouldn't be where I am today, for sure. But I don't know where I would have been. I don't know.
If it wasn't for that,
yeah, maybe I'd have been somewhere better. Maybe I'd have been more secure in my mind. I don't know. I would have gone to university and maybe I would have became a doctor. I don't know. Probably not. But I don't think it's a necessity. I do think that if you come from a good upbringing and you know your parents instill good values in you, and you can still be successful financially and relationship wise, and we all have issues. You know, it's the varying degrees of problems, but I think we all have traumas that we carry from childhood. I mean, a trauma can be if you're a single child and your parents have another kid, that can be trauma because now there's this other person in your life who's your sibling, but they're getting all the attention, right? So there's varying levels of trauma, and I believe everyone carries something, but I don't think you need to come from a terrible background to make money and be successful now.
Is she still with him?
No, he was a weirdo.
So she literally left. Like that's even more painful, man.
At 13, I understood that this man was strange. He was a weird guy, and his kids were honestly like, it's like they've been living in a cave, and they just come out the cave and like were walking around. They didn't know how to like speak and talk to people. Like they were weird, and I don't know why my mum didn't see that. That she married him, and the funny thing is, I don't know what was going through my sisters and brothers' minds, right? But I do know my sister got pregnant very young, and got out of that house and went to live with this guy. Maybe it was because she didn't like that environment and she needed to get out. So she's, you know, got pregnant from this guy that was way older than her, and she moved out. I think she got pregnant initially at, I don't know how old she was, 16, 17, 18, something like that. Maybe 20. I don't know. But she was young. She must have been 16, 17 when she got pregnant, because she left. And then my brother got with a very older woman, I think he was 13 when he met her, and she was like 36, 40.
Shut up.
Yeah, and he had 2 girls, and now he's just left the mum recently.
She like 70 years old? Like.
yeah, she's like, like 50 odd, and she's like overweight, and the girls are beautiful girls. He's got 2 girls out of that relationship, right? Lily and Daisy, they're great. And my sister, the kid that she had, she's like 17, 18 now, and she's beautiful, and she wants to be a model, and so the kids are fantastic, but they got themselves into that situation at that young age, and I believe it's because they just didn't like the situation at home, with this weird guy. So my mum left him and went on to another relationship, and now she's married to this other guy. But I think my mum's not meant to really be with anyone. I think she's a free spirit. She likes her freedom. She likes to meet different people, and I believe that's the kind of person she is.
Yeah. So would you say then joining the Royal Marines was almost like an escape for you?
It was absolutely an escape. Yeah. 100%.
When I was looking at your story, I was thinking, why would anyone want to choose that path?
Yeah. So I was in school and I was troubled, obviously. I've told you that I was going through all that. And one of my best friends at the time, Andy, he was from a broken family. His sister was bringing him up. His dad worked in Saudi. His mum, I think he never even met her. She was an alcoholic. So we created this bond, and he walked into school one day and showed me a photograph. And I looked at the photograph and instantly knew that was my path. Before he said anything, a light bulb went off, and it was a photo of his older brother, and he was a Royal Marines Commando. He had a Commando green beret on. He had the uniform on. He was on an exercise somewhere. And then Andy told me, like, this is one of the hardest trainings to go in the military, and you have to be really fit to join. And my brother's going on all these adventures around the world. And I was like in awe of it. Wow.
So, how old were you at that point?
It was, I must have been maybe almost 14.
Yeah.
13, 14, around there. So I stopped the weed. I didn't stop the alcohol necessarily. I was still not going to school. My attendance during the last year of high school was 43%. I still remember that number being on the report. But the next morning, after seeing this photo, I put shorts on, woke up at 5 a.m. and went for a run. And on that run, this is a moment that I'm proud of myself for, is because I'm running, and literally every step, I'm like, go back to bed, go back to bed, go back to bed. Like, I didn't want to be doing that. And it was uncomfortable for me, and I was out of shape, and I was blowing out my arse, and I was running around my town. And I had this like understanding that I could stop at any time, and I could walk back home, climb into my warm, comfy bed, and just fall asleep. And that was accepting my reality, which for me at the time was hell. I hated it. So I knew that in order to do this, I had to put up with this short pain that I was going through, this small amount of pain of running. The physical pain of this was like nowhere near the mental torture of this life.
Yeah.
So I got it. Day one. I understood I need to do this. So me and my friend Andy were obsessed with physical training. Like, honestly, like going down to the beach before the sun come up in the middle of the UK winter, in the rain and the wind, in shorts and t-shirts, in the ocean, right? Running up and down the beach with the sea up to our knees, doing push-ups, sit-ups and squats, training because we both needed to escape, and we both wanted to be Royal Marines Commandos. And so the story of commando training for me is quite an interesting one, because I walked into the recruitment office in Wrexham when I was 15 and 9 months old on the day, because you had to be 15 and 9 months old to apply to join. And the recruitment officer just looked at me and said, "Yeah, you're too young, come back when you're older." And I was like, "Nah, I'm 15 and 9 months old." And he was like, "You've done your research. Okay, well, boys your age don't usually pass commando training. Only a very small percentage get through. So come back when you're older." And I was just like, nah. Like, he didn't obviously know what I got to and all the training I'd done to get to that point. And so he agreed to let me on the PRMC, which is the Potential Royal Marines course. It was a 3-day course down at the Commando Training Center to see if you were good enough to go into commando training. And I obviously smashed it, right? I'm just like so keen and fit by that point. So you said, okay, fair enough. Like you're not just talking. A lot of the boys that come into my office say they're going to train on this. You've obviously done the work, but I still think you should wait. Like you're still not fully developed. It's hard training. It's one of the longest, hardest military training courses in the world, from civilian into military. Anyway, convinced him. Dad signed the papers. I got in, and it was easy physically for me training. Like I was probably too fit going into it. I was one of the top 2 or 3 fittest in the whole troop. Smashed it. Got to week 27. There was 32 weeks of training at the time. And that was when you did the commando tests. And there's 4 commando tests. The endurance course, 2-mile run in swamps, rivers and tunnels. You got to go through a fully submerged water tunnel and all this stuff with your rifle. Yeah. The commando test. So the first one is the endurance course, 2 miles, like cross country, rivers, swamps, tunnels.
So the tunnel was underwater, so you had to swim through it.
One of them is, someone pushes you under, you go through, you put your arms out, and then eventually the other guy grabs you and he pulls you to the other side and you come out the top, and then you get your rifle and you carry on running.
Wow.
There's like swamps, like up to your chest swamps, and you have to keep your rifle above it. And you're trying to, it's a timed run, and they do a 4-mile run back to camp. So 2 miles of this, 4 miles back to camp.
You must have been so fit after that.
Crazy fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy fit. Just like almost superhuman fit. And then you shoot your rifle at the end to prove that you can get your rifle through all that, and to prove that you can shoot accurately after going through that course. That's the endurance course. But that wasn't hard for me at all. That was like a breeze. I was so fit. The Tarzan assault course is a 30 foot in the air rope assault course in the trees, no safety nets, with kit on and weight and everything, followed by the normal assault course, and it's like a 15-minute lung buster. And then you do the 9-mile speed march, which is a very fast 9-miler with your kit. And then you've got the 30-miler, which is a notoriously hard test. It's 30 miles across mountainous terrain with all your kit and rifle, and guys have died on it many times. And so I failed the first time. The training took its toll on me, right? You lose a lot of weight in training. In the Royal Marines training, you get 4 meals a day, not the standard British military 3, because you just can't eat enough calories for the amount of
energy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're really depleted and tired and skinny. And I got this infection in my knee. It was a small cut and it got infected. And the training team moved me into the troop behind and said, look, you're obviously going to make it, Cyrus, just not with us. Go and heal, come through with the troop behind, and then pass everything. So I went back. In the next troop, I got through the first 2 commando tests, failed the 3rd one. This infection was getting worse, and I was hiding it from everyone because I was scared they were going to pull me out of training if they saw how bad it was. My knee was blowing up. The veins in my leg were a luminous red, and it was actually quite serious. But I was just like, just get through these tests and then sort it out. Went through 860. 3rd time went through the commando test. Got through the first 3 tests. Got to the 30-miler the morning of. Threw up my food because I was so sick at this point from the infection. I was like sweating, flu-like symptoms, leg was all blowing up. It had come up into my hip, went for a pee. It was like brown. I didn't realize how serious it was. I just thought, I'll take some drugs after this and, sort it out. Started the 30-miler, got between mile 20 and 25, and my body just went, nope.
Yeah.
You're done. Collapsed. They threw me in a river. I was overheating and I was hyperventilating quite aggressively. So they took me to hospital, obviously the military hospital, and on the camp there, stripped me off, put fans on me. I was in and out of consciousness, and I woke up and the doctor was pissed. Like I remember him standing at the end of my bed with his arms crossed, just waiting to absolutely blast me.
Yeah.
And he did. He was like, Recruit Rustom, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like not that long ago, I wouldn't have asked you any questions. I would have put you to sleep and chopped your leg off. This is that serious. I'm not joking. And you might still lose it. It was bad. Anyway, put me full of drugs. Infection went down. Got recovered in the special unit in training where you can recover, and then went back into training and obviously passed. But the lessons from that, looking back and at the time, first of all, I had no plan B. There was nothing else for me. So although I was going through all this and I was sick and I was infected and I kept failing many times the commando tests, not once did I think in my mind, I'm going to go home and quit, because there was nothing else for me. So I learned at 16 years old, don't set a plan B. Set your plan A, fucking go for it, right? The second thing I got from it was, do you know how many times I told my dad that I was going to be a Marine, and how many times he told me, yeah, you can do it? So the thought of going back home and looking my dad in the face and saying I couldn't make it, not an option for me.
Yeah.
I honestly would rather have died doing it and him remember me as the son that never gave up and was chasing his dreams than to go back with my tail between my legs and admit defeat. Not an option. Not an option. No thanks. I'll die doing it. And I used to tell myself that. Honestly, I used to tell myself in my head, it's either die or get the Commando Green Beret. So a couple of lessons learned that I carried with me after that. And I had this mindset from my divorce that I was actually unbreakable. And all the stuff that they threw at me in commando training, all this was honestly nothing compared to, you know, my mum leaving me. And so I had that to compare it with. And, you know, the Marines was the best thing for me, honestly. Like, I went to my unit, we were close knit, you know, we trained together, we sleep together, we not necessarily.
Was there anyone you didn't like?
Yeah, there was one guy. There was two guys. There's two guys that actually hated me, so I hated them. I didn't dislike anyone.
Why did they hate you?
There was one Scottish guy called Murchie in training, and he absolutely hated me.
Was his surname Murdoch by any chance? As I even call him Murdy.
He was big jock guy, and he was very insecure, and I don't know, he saw something in me that he didn't like, and he hated me and used to give me shit all the time. But
Do you ever have any scraps with these boys, or?
No,
never.
No. And there was one guy in my unit, Matt, who hated me as well. He just disliked me, and I didn't have anything against him. I thought he was all right, but he just hated me. I don't know why. In the Marines, when you join your unit, you are what's called a sprog. You're a young Marine, and you do all the shit jobs. And you do something called a joining run. And it's the humor in the military is 10x civilian humor. Anything you find funny, it's not funny in the military. It needs to be extreme for it to be funny.
Yeah, you have to be like, I know a few military lads and they're fucking wild. Like the way that they like joke with each other, I'm like, wow, I'm pretty savage, but like these boys are like next level.
Completely savage. I mean, the jokes, like my first day of commando training, they lined everyone up on the parade square, and the drill sergeant, you start with the drill sergeant as the drill leader, because he teaches you how to clean yourself properly, how to iron your unit, the basics. You start with the basics, right? You don't do the fun stuff like throwing grenades and jumping out of helicopters in day one. You do the boring stuff. And he walked up to me, it was 60 of us that started, got right in my face and went, "You're a fucking poo baby, aren't you?" Because I had brown skin. And the guys are like, and I was just like, but when you get to your unit, you do a joining run.
It's so racist, isn't it?
It's so funny though. I mean, honestly, if you have anything about you,
yeah, they're looking out for weaknesses, right? So like, if he thinks that you're like sensitive to a bit of a racial joke, then he's going to come for you hard.
You need to have thick skin, and it's all funny. It's all fun and games at the end of the day. Like the training team in training thought I looked like, I used to have really buck teeth, really goofy teeth, because I sucked my thumb so much as a kid, as a baby. And they thought I looked like Freddie Mercury from Queen, right? So what they did once is they played the Queen album, and funnily enough, my dad used to play Queen on repeat.
Yeah.
Like Queen and Beethoven, repeat. That was the only music he listened to. So I know all the words. And they put a black masking tape mustache on my skin and told me to stand there and sing and dance through every single song of the Queen album. And
you were able to do it.
And I knew all the words. And so they knew, like, oh my God, he knows the words. So they stood me there for like an hour. So in the unit, yeah, back to my story. When you join, they have something called a joining run, and it's notoriously like it's a thing that you do. When you get to your unit, you have to go through this. It's like a party, right? Everyone's drinking, and they make you do these like funny games, essentially. and at the end of it, they shake your hand and welcome you officially to the unit. Welcome to the unit, you know. And you know, they told us, right, show up at like 6 p.m. with no hair on your body except for your eyebrows, naked. Right, so we all show up, all the new guys, completely naked, only eyebrows. We had like completely naked, not a hair on your body, right?
Like, is it no clothes as well?
Completely naked. Walk there with no hair on your body except for your eyebrows, like zero hair, like shaved, everything, completely, legs, arms, everything. And it's so they give you like these pints of whiskey, pure whiskey, and like drink it. They pee in the whiskey as well, so you're drinking like piss and whiskey together. So they give you like big 1.5 2-liter bottles of whole milk, and you have to like down it and then do burpees. So obviously at some point it's just gonna like projectile out, right? And then they made us like fight each other with like yoga mats, basically our roll mats that we use when we go on exercise, on our hands, just like play fighting, like not really punching each other, naked. And then we were playing like
all while you're naked.
yeah, everything's there. Yeah, you don't put any clothes on. We had this like slope, and we would like they put a hose pipe on the slope to make it all muddy, and then the guys would stand at the bottom facing away, and then the person would have to sprint on the grass, nosedive down, and then hit everyone like human bowling, they were calling it, to see how many like pins they could knock over.
It sounds fucking hilarious.
Oh mate, it was I think they stopped them because someone took a load of photos and the papers got it, and they put it out in the UK, so that they come like quite strict on it. I'm sure they do some version of it now. But they had a catapult. I don't know where they got this catapult from. Like one guy holds one end, the other guy holds the other end. There was 3 thick rubber bands, and then they were firing water balloons at us, double water balloons, and it cracked a double glazing window. That's how powerful it was. And we had to walk on the wall pretending to be crabs. And these water balloons were swaying. I took one to the left pec, and mate, it was honestly, it was this big and black for like 4 weeks after it. One guy got hit in the back of the head. There's no smash. There's blood everywhere. And the final thing was the troop line up in 2 lines, take their flip-flops off, and you had to walk through the line slowly, non-emotionally, not a single emotion on your face, and they were slapping you with their flip-flops as hard as they could, and you get to a thick rose bush, and you had to do a front flip into the rose bush. So I was third in line.
That must have been so painful.
Yeah, it was. The first guy got halfway through the row of flip-flop slaps and made out a cry, and they said, get to the back. And I was like, okay, so don't do that, because they will actually make you go to the back. The guy in front of me got all the way through the flip-flops and then dived into the bush but didn't do a flip. Said, nope, you got to do a front flip, go to the back. And I was like, man, I'm not doing this twice. So got through, did the biggest flip I've ever done in my life, landed in this thick bush of like nettles and roses, and they said, yeah, well done. And then I'm like, oh, but I'm stuck in this bush now. And I just went, 3, 2, 1, just like got out, and oh my God, the next day. But they shake your hand after it, welcome to the company. And that's just to give you an idea of like normal jokes in the military are not funny. You need to take it to extreme, but it's for a reason. I mean, you're brainwashed. You go to war together. You need that to be so close to each other. It was funny.
How long was it until you went on your first assignment?
I was supposed to go to Iraq when I first got there, but I was in trouble with the police for an incident in my hometown, like a fighting, drunken incident. So I was put on a travel ban. So I didn't go, unfortunately, or fortunately. Everything happens for a reason. I wasn't meant to go to Iraq for a reason. But Afghanistan was 2006, and that was my one and only tour.
And when did you join?
I went in to training around 2002, I believe.
Oh wow, so it was literally 4 years until you actually went out. And
a year of training. And then
what would you do in between the time then, of like when you weren't out on a tour? Like what would you have to do?
Yeah, a normal day was quite chill on camp. And we'd do a lot of training, and we'd go out on exercises around the UK, just practicing our job. We went to Europe a few times, working with other European forces and going in helicopters. And when we actually did something, it was fun, We'd go cliff jumping and stuff, and we go on ships a lot of the time with the Navy because we are attached to the Navy as a Royal Marine. Just practicing, just like you would in a job, just doing stuff. And Afghanistan was it was quite surreal before we went. Like I remember sat in my room with all my kit, desert kit, and at the time we were in Devon, and it was in the summer. It was a beautiful day, and our camp was on this like estuary. We would go into town, drink, party, sleep with girls. We were living like in a bubble there. In the military, everything was taken care of.
You kind of do what you wanted as well because you knew you'd always get away with it.
Absolutely. And there was always a big group of you, right? So no one could really say anything. Even the doormen in the clubs and stuff couldn't really do anything. There's like 30 odd of you, So we would go out dressed like women, dressed like superheroes. We'd literally go to Woolworths, was the shop at the time, pick a 5 to 7 year old fairy outfit, squeeze it on somehow, go into town and just cause havoc, And, we got arrested a few times, and it was fun. But I just remember sitting there in my desert uniform thinking, wow, like we're going from this to war. Like there's no in between. And I don't know what I was expecting going to Afghanistan, but when we arrived, we went to Camp Kandahar first, which was the large American base there.
This was post 9/11, right?
This was 2006.
9/11 was 2001, right?
Yeah. 2006.
So it was all popping off in Afghanistan.
2006 was, yeah, big time. Yeah, it was very much a war zone. But we arrived on Camp Kandahar, which was the American base, and the Americans do things differently. Their budget for their military is insane. For the defense, and the camp was unreal. It was like KFCs and Burger Kings there, and the food was really nice in the food halls, and they had all these energy drinks and fridges, and in the British military we had none of that. So we were like, wow, this is not what we were expecting. We were expecting war. But we eventually made it to the British base, which was Camp Bastion. And people ask me all the time, how was your Afghanistan experience? And did you kill anyone and all this? And my personal experience of Afghanistan was, touch wood, combat-wise, very easy. Didn't have to shoot my rifle at anyone. Definitely didn't kill anyone. We went on a few operations, like missions in Sangin Valley and to the forward operating bases. And there was bullets and bombs going off, but nothing touched me. And I wasn't in a situation where I had to shoot someone, and I'm very glad of that, because a lot of my friends, some of them died, some of them lost limbs, some of them killed people, and now are suffering for it. I
was going to say, that was part of some of the questions that I had. Obviously you haven't killed someone, but did you see somebody die when you were there?
There was one incident where a vehicle was coming towards us in the middle of the desert. It was full of guys. It was a truck. It was a red truck. And it was bombing it towards us. And it wouldn't stop. And in that scenario, the first thing you do is you put a few rounds into the desert in front of the vehicle to let them know you mean business. So the guys at the front of the convoy, 50 cal rounds are massive. If a 50 cal round hits the floor near you, you are shitting your pants, right? It doesn't have to hit you. It could kill you just whizzing past you. That's how big the rounds are and powerful they are. So a couple of rounds into the desert in front of the vehicle, it kept coming. The next thing you do is put a couple of rounds into the bonnet. Dum dum. By that point, if you're still coming, you mean you're trying to do damage to us. Do you know what I mean? So a few seconds after that, they just killed everyone in the vehicle, and we just carried on. We didn't even go and check the vehicle. It was a war. If you feel like someone looks dodgy, you can kill them and not get in trouble for it.
Yeah, there's a lot. I actually did a podcast with somebody that was in the army, and there is a lot of red tape around killing people, right? It's like, it's not just like you pull out your gun. You actually, what I didn't realize is that you have to literally like warn them to the point of like almost you're dying before you shoot them.
Yeah. In 2006, in certain areas where we were in Sangin Valley, there wasn't any of that. If you thought someone was dangerous, you kill them. And that was the rule. That was what they told us. If you think someone is carrying a weapon and they're gonna do damage, or they're a suicide bomber or anything like that, shoot them.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there is people that get through military training and go to war and they just want to kill people. I didn't know anyone personally in my group who wanted to just kill someone for the sake of it. But there is people that go in the military and do that.
Yeah.
There's weirdos everywhere, you know? And we were playing volleyball and telling jokes as normal and living life out there, but we just have to go out on the ground a few times. And, you know, our unit did have it quite soft the time I was there. And after I left, you know, they probably got into some other things, but I'm grateful that it was not bad, you know.
And then you said about obviously losing friends and stuff. Like, did you lose a few friends on that tour?
Yeah.
How was that when you kind of see them one day and then they don't come back?
Yeah, it's sad, man. It's very sad. It's fucking young guys, you know. Just life gone. You don't join the military till you lose your life, you know. One of my very good friends' brother, who was in our same unit, there was two brothers, died. A bomb went off next to him, and it stopped his heart. And I watched my friend just, you know, I remember going to the funeral and hugging him and feeling him shake and just being like, oh my God, like, you know, his brother, his best friends died, and other guys died as well. And yeah, it's just sad. Yeah. It's just sad, especially looking back, being older, right? And being able to
have that empathy and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially now I've got a kid, you know, my God, I wouldn't wish my son to go in the military and do that stuff. No way.
Yeah. So, you obviously ended up leaving camp, but on pretty unfamiliar circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Take us back to the day of that particular incident.
Yeah.
What actually happened?
Yeah, we were on camp and the captain give us this like bullshit job, we would call it. It was just like, guys, go and pick up this package that's being delivered to the airstrip, take these 2 vehicles, pick up the stuff and come back. And we were like, okay, you know. So one of the vehicles wasn't working. It wouldn't start. You had to jump start it. So you had to get it moving so you could start the engine. So we used a tow bar, pulled it, started it, unhooked it, drove to the airstrip, me and one of the guys, Smarty, my friend, turned the vehicles off, got the package, did the same thing, got it going, the engine. I jumped out of the front vehicle and went in between the vehicles and unhooked the tow bar, which was attaching both vehicles together. I took it off the rear vehicle first, and then the rear vehicle came forward. I was still in between. And it was trying to move forward, but the front vehicle was there and it was just kind of like hitting it and moving back. And the vehicles had armor on them, and the armor started around where my neck was. And so my friend got out of the rear vehicle while it was still trying to move forward, had a look in between them to see what was going on, and saw my head in between getting bashed, reversed back, and then I had my head, you know, smashed up. I didn't know the extent of the injuries, obviously, but I broke my jaw in 3 places, completely crushed the right side of like all my eye socket area, and my skull had been broken all over, basically. My head had been squashed. And I initially like brushed it off, you know, like, but then realized, like, oh shit, lied down on the floor. And then people were gathering around me, and my friends were holding on to me, and I could hear what people were saying. The blood was dripping out my eyes, nose, mouth, ears. And then I was like, fuck, this is bad. And I was in no pain, 0 pain.
Adrenaline was obviously pumping, yeah?
Didn't feel a thing the whole time. And my friends were holding on to my hands, and I could hear everyone talking, and I was thinking, it hit me that I was going to die. And I was dying. I would have died if they hadn't have come and got me and taken me to the hospital and did what they did. So I got clarity in that moment, right? Just about to die. No ego, no fear. This is it, right? And I was upset. I was super upset. I started screaming and squeezing the hands of my friends out of frustration, because I was like, fuck, this is my life. I've done nothing. I went to school. I went in the military. I'm 21 years old and I'm about to die on this fucking desert floor in Afghanistan. And I was upset and angry and frustrated. And my friends had to let go of my hands because I was squeezing them so tight and I was so annoyed. And I couldn't speak and say words because my jaw was all messed up. It felt like an hour I was lying on the floor. It must have been like 10 minutes or something. The ambulance came and they took me to the hospital and they did a scan and they were like, oh, we can't do anything here. We need to send you to a bigger hospital in Kandahar, the American base that we initially went to. They didn't even have the doctors or the facilities on Kandahar to deal with this kind of injury. They took me to Oman, and somewhere along the line, I fell into a coma, and I was like pretty much just hanging on, by a thread. They had me on all these machines and tubes and stuff, keeping me alive in intensive care.
Did your dad know about it?
Well, they shut all communication with home when something like this happens, when someone dies, right? No one's allowed to call home until the military go and tell the next of kin. I fell into the coma, so right, we're going to go and tell the dad. The Royal Marines officer and priest went to my dad's house, and he was at work, so they went to the neighbours told him where he worked. There's like a security gate to the compound where my dad works, and then there's the factory, which he's worked at that point for maybe 25 years or something. And they show up at the front gate, and we're here to see Eddie Rustom, and they go, yeah, he's in that room there. They obviously know what's going on, right? Calls my dad, mate, come outside. There's two gentlemen are here to see you. My dad's like, what are you talking about? He's like, please come outside, just come and see them, mate. You want to see them. So dad comes to the entrance of the factory. The guys are walking across the car park. My dad spots the Royal Marines officer in uniform and a priest. He immediately gets it, drops to his knees, like, Cyrus is dead. And like, that's just hit me emotionally, because I've told that story so many times before having a son. Didn't bother me at all. I'd be like, yeah, my dad was obviously in pain, but now I've got a son. The thought of someone telling me your son's going to die, broken man. That's the only thing in this world that would completely destroy me.
So they, as you went to a coma then, so they went to see your dad, but like, what did they tell your dad? Did they just say that you was in a coma or that you died?
Cyrus is about to die. It's not looking good for him. And you need to go out and see him before he dies.
So they flew him to Afghanistan?
They were about to fly him. 3 days later, I woke up out of the coma. They'd made the preparations for the flight and everything. I woke up out of the coma and they said, he's not about to die. He's awake now. We might be able to save him. Well, we think we can save him. Don't fly out. We'll handle it. So they didn't fly him out to see me. And I'm very glad of that, because I experienced some things in hospital for the next 2 months that I needed to experience on my own. If my dad would have been with me, I don't think I would have quite got it. And I believe that accident happened exactly as it was supposed to happen.
What were those things that you went through though?
The realizations?
Yeah. Like what you mentioned, the things that you went through and that you wouldn't have gone through if he was there. Like, what did you go through?
Right. So I had 2 operations in hospital. I'll get to that. I'll tell you the full thing.
I was thinking maybe he's going to try and skip past it, but no, if we get to that, that's cool.
I'll go through my full experience in the hospital and I'll tell you exactly what I learned. I woke up and I was in no pain still, probably pumping me full of like stuff. I had massive damage to the nerves next to my eye, so I couldn't see. I had ear damage, I couldn't hear properly. Obviously, jaw was all messed up, and they had a massive tube in my throat. And I immediately woke up and grabbed this tube and tried to pull it out of my mouth. It was just like, and I was yanking on it, and it wouldn't move even a tiny bit. I remember thinking, damn, they've put this thing in deep. Like, I can't even move it a bit. And the nurses tied my arms down. And my arms were tied down for like 6 days. And when they untied them, I couldn't bend my arms. So I'm lying there like, this sucks, man. Couldn't speak, obviously.
Just like crippled, just like,
yeah, just like out of it. And my brain had taken a hit. So I wasn't like thinking properly. And my body was pulling me into a sleep, man. Like deep. Like I would wake up for like 10 minutes.
And then you go back
and
again.
It'd just be like pulling me into this sleep. Like, oh, I'm so sleepy, 23 hours a day sleeping. For like the first few days. Had an operation, don't remember the first one. I remember the second one. They told me you're going to go for a surgery. Went in for the surgery, woke up on a operating table in surgery. After the surgery, all the doctors and nurses are everywhere. These beaming lights beaming down on my head. I had all these tubes and everything still coming out of me. I remember very vividly opening my eyes. I was alone in hospital, right? There was no family there or anything. I was in Oman. And I was thinking, wow, that's a lot of pain. That was the first time I felt pain. It was like extreme pain in my head. I was like, wow, that's strong. But I understand that why my head would be hurting. And I had this ringing in my head. And I was like, I understand why I've got a ringing in my head. But I was absolutely freezing, like the coldest I've ever been. I was shaking out of coldness. I thought, why are they not putting a blanket on me? Like, at least give me that, you know? Went back, healed, took me off all the machines, eventually took this damn thing out my throat. Then they wired my jaw shut, and they took me to a military hospital to heal. And this is where the story begins. I had spinal fluid leaking out of my nose, and when I'd do that, it would drip out like a tap. When I would do this, it would go into my throat and I would swallow it. And the doctor told me, if this doesn't stop in a few days, I'm going to stick this needle into your spine and we're going to have a look and see what's going on. We're going to shoot it at my spinal cord, I guess, and have a look to see what was going on. So I was like, wow, this is getting better and better. Still couldn't see properly. Everything was doubled and blurry. Hearing was still bad, and I would communicate with the nurses through writing. There was one other guy in the room with me. It was a big room, like 20 beds. One guy that was opposite me, he was clearly disabled, had no control of his bowels, couldn't feed himself. He was distressed, clearly distressed, making noises, and he was constantly trying to bite himself. You know, it was not a pretty sight. But there was this old guy that would come every day and visit him for like an hour or so and then leave. And the guy would walk in and he would come to the end of my bed and, how are you doing? And my jaw's wide shut, make some noises, and he would go and see this guy and then he would leave. And in that moment in hospital, I was feeling very sorry for myself. I thought my head was going to be disfigured for life. It was like this big, it was black. My jaw was all messed up. I couldn't see properly, hear properly. Before that, since my parents divorced and I built up the belief that I was indestructible and nothing could hurt me, all the stuff through commando training, like at the end of commando training, they give out an award to some recruits. The best recruits of each troop get it's called a diamond award. And on all my photos, when I passed out, I had this red diamond on my arm. I got given a diamond award, and only 2 to 4 guys in every troop out of like 50, 60 guys get it. I got one. It's supposed to be for the best recruits and the one that show the most leadership potential. I had no leadership potential at that age. I did have an ability in the worst, most sleep deprived, coldest, hardest times of commando training. I had an ability to think and be like, I'm going to be on camp in a few weeks or days, warm, eating hot food, and we're all going to be laughing and joking about this. So I could see through the pain in the moment and be like, it's fine. You know, we're going to be on camp. So they saw that in me, and I knew it, that I had that ability, because everyone else had their heads down and they'd be feeling sorry for themselves, and I had my head up and I'd be laughing and joking, trying to bring the energy up. So, but in the moment in hospital, I lost that ability completely. And I was feeling very sorry for myself. I was running through the incident over and over and over again in my mind, and it was still raw. And one day I wrote on my notebook, what's the story with that guy? And I drew an arrow to him. There was no one else in the room. I drew an arrow to him. Like, there was loads of people in there, but there was one other guy. And the nurse said, he was involved in a car accident some months back. He was driving with his mum and his sister in the car. His mum and sister died in the accident. He's permanently disabled. He still has full capacity of his mind. He's very aware, but in no control over his body. The reason why he keeps trying to bite himself is because he's trying to kill himself. He feels guilty for killing his mum and sister. And that old man that visits him is his father. And I went, wait, what? This old man has just lost his wife and his daughter, and his son's like this for life, and he's trying to top himself every minute of the day. But he walks in the hospital with a smile on his face and looks at me and asks me if I'm okay. And I was just like, I don't get it. I feel like an idiot. And I felt shame. Shame on you for feeling sorry for yourself with this scratch when this is going on right in front of you. I felt so bad. And I was just like, literally sat up and held my head up, and I was like, fuck this. I'm going to get through this. And immediately changed my mindset in that moment. And I started walking around the hospital more, talking to the nurses and telling myself, I'm going to fucking get through this. And not immediately, but a few days after that, I was running through the incident again in my head, like I would do thousands of times a day. It was just on.
Did you have nightmares about it?
Yeah. It was in my mind constantly. And I think that anyone that goes through an incident like that, near-death experience, is going to have that. It's going to be like a physiological response, and you're just going to have it looping, right? Because it's such a traumatic event. However, I also know for a fact now that it all happened for a reason. It was all planned out through the universe, or whatever you want to call it, right? And I hadn't quite got the lesson yet. And I was running through it a few days later, and I realized, again, like a big light bulb, I was on my deathbed. And during that moment of complete clarity, I was upset, angry, and frustrated because I was about to die, and I had massive regret that I was 21 and had not lived life. So when that moment comes again, everyone dies. I don't want to feel like that. And that's what I got in hospital in that moment. My job now is to live life on my terms, how I want. And when that moment comes again, I don't want those same feelings, because that was horrible. I was like so upset. So now that stayed with me. The two things have stayed with me. One is when stuff seems to be going bad, you're not having a bad day. Shut your fucking mouth. You're not having a bad day. That guy was having a bad day.
Yeah.
And this old man was having a bad day. You ain't got shit on that. So stop feeling sorry for yourself and don't play a victim. And I realized that I needed to live my life 100%, no holding back. And before the accident happened, I put in my notice to leave the Marines. I had my leaving interview in Afghanistan from the commanding officer, a few weeks before the incident happened. And he asked me, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, travel the world. And he was like, how are you going to travel the world? I was like, I don't know, but I just want to go around the world, not in uniform. And he was like, that's ridiculous. Like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure something out. I just want to go out there and be free. And he was just like, it convinced me not to, but he had to let me go because I'd done my time and I could have left. So I had the accident, and when I was in my hometown, about a year later, I'd left, and I was working as a scaffolding guy, like driver, and scaffolding, and I was in my hometown, and there's a place that I hated, and I was drinking and doing drugs recreationally, and I hated it. I got a payout from the military from the accident that allowed me to travel the world for the next 4.5 years without a single worry about money or anything.
How much did you get paid?
I got paid in drips.
So it was like over a period of time.
Yeah. The initial,
which kind of enabled you to not spend all your money at once.
Mate, exactly. I got paid total like £180,000.
Wow.
At 21 or 22 by the time, over drips.
Did you know that was coming?
No.
Wow.
No, I didn't. I got paid £20,000 initially from the military through the military compensation scheme. And that allowed me £20,000 at 22 was crazy.
It's mad money, mate.
And I just immediately quit my job and flew to Thailand. Immediately. Like a week after I got the money, I was in Thailand. I flew over to Thailand with a backpack on, with literally 3 shorts and a t-shirt or something, with a friend of mine, Danny. His family had some money, and he was in the military as well. And we both said, let's go. And
how long did you stay in Thailand for?
Total 2 years.
That must have been so much fun. Which part?
I lived, we initially went there and did a scuba diving instructor's course because we thought it would be great to be scuba divers. And we stayed in Pattaya for 8 months. Are you familiar with Pattaya?
No, but isn't it like a proper party place?
It's the seediest city on planet Earth. And the diving shop...
Is that why you stayed for 8 months?
Listen, the dive shop, it was our first day in Thailand. We were in a taxi at the back of this pickup truck. There were seats in the back. It was the truck of the dive shop. It was taking us to the dive shop. There's different streets called soys, and the dive shop was on a soy called Soy 6. It was 6 on the line of streets. It was Soy 6. Soy 6 in Pattaya is a renowned street. It's where people go to fuck girls in the shops of the street. It's called short time. You go there, you pay the girl, you sleep with them.
And you're literally working on that street.
The dive shop was on the street, and they say that it was there before the girls come. I'm like, man, why didn't you move it? But they had this shop, and I don't know, they must have bought it or something, and they kept the shop there. So every day, the taxi would go down the street, and not thousands, but hundreds of girls on the street screaming. It was our first day in Thailand, and they were all screaming. We were like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, we didn't think it was going to be like this. It's the seediest city on planet Earth. It started from the soldiers' war going to the beach to get some R&R away from the war. And obviously the locals heard about it, and the girls would go there and, you know, sleep with the guys for some dollars or whatever. And now it's a massive city, and it's just insane. You can't explain it. You have to go there to believe it. It's very seedy, just girls, older guys, the full thing, everything from, you know, and we lived there for 8 months, and we were just, you know, young, drinking, going out all the time. It was just never ending party. And we traveled around different places. And after 4.5 years of traveling, don't get me wrong, I loved every minute of it. Like, I was enjoying myself, and it was probably the freest I've ever felt, because I had the money in the bank.
Yeah.
And
4.5 years, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 2 years in Thailand. I got into I moved to Phuket and did some Muay Thai and fought doing Muay Thai, and fitness was always a part of my routine. Like, ever since I was 13, since I saw that photo, I've always done fitness, but diet was way off. Alcohol was like way in, not too much of it, like 5 days a week drinking, living I grew dreadlocks. Imagine, I had dreadlocks, right? Just full bum life. And I knew I wanted more out of life. And there's only so many times you can go to a beach and say, this is nice, right? I was bored out of my mind. And I just moved to Dubai on a whim, on my own, with my stuff.
From Thailand?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where my kind of Dubai journey started.
4.5 years, wow. And just a quick one with the whole Muay Thai thing. How long were you doing Muay Thai for as well?
I was in Thailand for a total of 2 years. I wasn't doing it in Pattaya. When I moved to Phuket, I was doing it. One of my very good friends, Kev, was a professional Muay Thai fighter. He was also in the military with me, in the Marines with me, and he was really good at Muay Thai. Like, he was on the TVs fighting, he was going around Bangkok fighting in the best stadiums, and he's got the body for it, and he loved it. And I basically looked at him doing it. I was like, wow, that looks so cool. I want to do it. I ain't got the body for Muay Thai. I ain't got the mind for it.
It's just pure punishment, isn't it?
Absolute destroying each other. And before a fight, you would sit down on a little wooden chair next to the ring, and they would make you watch the fight before you. And I never understood why they do that. Because you sat there, shitting your pants, watching these guys elbow each other's faces, thinking, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? That's what I used to think anyway. But I'm really glad I did it, because I believe as men, we have it built into us to want to fight.
Yeah.
We are fighters. We used to kill each other and hunt and fight all the time. So going through that and going into a ring and having someone standing in front of you like, I'm gonna knock your head off, right?
Yeah.
That is an awesome experience for a man to do.
Especially when you do it as well.
Yeah, it's really good. I won some and lost. American guy did a spinning elbow to my nose and knocked me out. And my nose was like, I'll show you a photo. It's on my phone after this, like bent on my face. And I went to the hospital and told the doctor, I walked into the hospital with my friend, and the doctor went, what's the problem? And my friend started laughing, and I was like, my nose. And he was like, okay, let me have a look. He was like, not broken. And my friend started laughing her head off. And I was like, what do you mean not broken? And he was like, not broken. Cartilage. And he drew a picture and cartilage damage, and come back tomorrow, specialist here. He will help you. So I went home. I was lying on my bed, and my nose was over here. And I was like...
You can just see one eye just like...
I was like, not broken. And he said that the specialist will take care of it tomorrow. So the next day he comes, walked into the specialist office. As I opened the door, I haven't even sat down yet, he goes, broken nose. And I was like, yeah, obviously. So I had surgery on it. And I stopped Muay Thai after that.
Yeah.
It was like, nah,
it's not worth it. Yeah.
For me.
So Dubai. So how did you come to hear about Dubai then? Because back in 2013 is when you moved here, right?
January 2000.
So, I mean, it wasn't as popular a place to be. It was just after the crash. Like people were a bit like, it wasn't as popular as it is now. So what spurred Dubai on?
I honestly don't know. It was an intuitive feeling I had about the place, I guess. Don't forget, I'd been traveling. Traveling was not foreign for me. Like I went to North America, Central America, all around Southeast Asia. We were used to just packing up a backpack and going to a different country.
Yeah, so just going somewhere new didn't faze you at all.
No, it didn't. But I wanted to go somewhere entrepreneurial. I had in my mind, every time I'd wake up hungover, I'd be like, man, this again.
There's more to life than this.
Yeah. And I was out of shape and I was into fitness, and Dubai felt like the place for me to go. So I got a job working as a personal trainer in Fitness First, and that's where it started.
Had you done fitness before that? Like, had you done any personal training before?
Yeah, I had done. Yeah, I was always. I did my qualifications to be a personal trainer way before that, like 5 years before that. It was somewhere when I left the military. I did my personal training qualifications. I was working as a scaffolder, and at the time, a lot of the guys were going to do private security. That was like big money for guys that were former Marines and paras and special forces. And all my friends were doing that. And I did my qualifications for that actually at some point. But I realized that was not going to be something I'd necessarily enjoy. Yeah. And it would have just been for the money. And I was so passionate about fitness, even though I was drinking and recreationally doing drugs and stuff, I was still doing fitness all the time and never stopped. So I was like, no, I want to do something I enjoy for a career. And I always knew eventually the money was going to run out and I'd have to do a job and do something. So I decided on fitness. And I was actually working for Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand when I was there as the CrossFit instructor there. And I was doing the classes there, I was working for like an hour, max 2 hours a day. I was training for 4 hours a day doing Muay Thai. And the rest of the time I was just on the beach drinking and...
Yeah. And how was it? Like, Fitness First is always an interesting one. It's like a landing ground for personal trainers.
It was, yeah.
And then they just kind of like do it for a few months, realize it's shit, and then off they go.
Yeah.
So at what point did you, because you've obviously gone on to set up now, obviously a successful business, but at that point you knew nothing about business.
Absolutely
so
not.
How was the transition from personal trainer into actually starting your own business?
I'd been in Fitness First a few months and I met a guy that was a family member. He was like my dad's second cousin. I'd never met him before, but I heard he was in Dubai. So my dad was like, go meet him. And he was a banker. He was the CFO for Standard Chartered at the time. His name was also Cyrus. So we met up and we got speaking and he could see like the passion in me that I wanted to do something. And I had a bit of money. So we decided we were going to open up a CrossFit box. It was my idea to do CrossFit because I was into CrossFit at the time. So I left the gym. He invested, I think it was about 1.2 million dirhams at the time with a friend. And I did the work. And that was 3.5 years of my life. And it was my university, I guess you could say.
Yeah, right? A lot of learning.
I got thrown into the deep end of a business and I was a bum traveler. And I had lost... I always say to people think that if you're in the military that you automatically have discipline. You don't. You're in an environment that's conducive to the environment. When you leave the environment, all the discipline you have unravels.
Yeah.
So I was this bum beach boy traveling Muay Thai-ish guy that was drinking 5 days a week, partying. And now I was a business owner. And I had employees and I had to just learn. And honest to God, I would sit at the computer. It was hard. Like it was a lot of work to do. And I don't think I was quite ready to do that amount of hard work. But something happened when I was in Fitness First. I met my wife. My wife is like way above my level of like looks. Like everyone says your wife's beautiful. How did you manage that? I don't know how I managed it. I was earning like 4,000 dirhams at the time. She was earning 8 to 10 times more than me. She's good looking, had a great job, very confident, and I was just like bum guy. But we fell in love, and that drove me. That like got me out of my funk of like drinking and partying. And
yeah, you just want to be a better person for her.
it didn't feel right. I was like, wow, she's earning more money than me. That's not right. Like I don't feel comfortable with that. And I had dreams and goals, but I wasn't acted on them yet. I was on my own. I didn't give a shit. But she made me level up. Not because she'd said anything to me. She was fine the way I was. I wasn't fine with it. So we got married, and I told her I was this party guy, with her. We were going out drinking in restaurants, and we were living this life. And I was on the very like end of my money from the accident, and I'd spent it all. And then we got married, and I told her, I'm done with this life. I'm stopping right now. I'm going to work. And I stopped drinking. I stopped going out with her. I didn't see her. I went to the gym, and from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, I was in my business.
And she was still going out?
She was still going out, very much so. She didn't stop it. We fought so much, man, in those early days.
Because she met you and you were that guy, and then you change. So it's like the
overnight changed.
So the guy that she's actually met is now disappeared, and here's a new guy.
She met a guy who had been free in every sense of the word. No girlfriend, no limits, do whatever the fuck I want, when I want, for so long. And she met a guy that was carrying these deep-rooted traumas from his parents splitting up. So we were like bouncing off the walls in this apartment. We met each other. We moved in 6 weeks later. We got married 6 months later.
Wow.
Mate, it was an explosion of personalities. If you'd have been a fly on the wall, you'd have said, what the fuck are these two humans doing together? Just split up. And we nearly did so many times.
Really? What kept you holding on?
Man, we were close, man. We were very close. I mean, there's one time when we were fighting, and it got not physical with each other. Or kind of did. Like we were like wrestling each other kind of, and it just gets so heated, and I pulled the curtains off, and the pillows were everywhere, and her brother come round, because she would call the brother, and he was like, what the hell
is going on now?
So that's how bad it got. And I was conflicted, massively conflicted. One side of me, I would wake up every single morning and the voice would come in my head, divorce. How are you going to divorce her? And I'd plan out a divorce in my head every single morning without fail. How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Didn't have the balls to just tell her I wanted to divorce her. I was trying to like plan out a situation that would end up us not being apart, right? And the other side of me was like, she's beautiful. She's loving. She's loyal. What the fuck else do you want, man? I mean, so I had the two. It was completely split 50-50. And when we got married in Abu Dhabi, we signed the papers. I was a mess. Like, I did not want to be there. She could sense that in me. And I was moody and grumpy, and we did it. And that was the side of me that was the trauma from when my parents divorced, right? I had this belief. So eventually what happened with my wife is we were on the brink of divorcing, and she'd grown apart from me because I was so cold, and I was just not having any of it, and we were fighting, and I was reading a business book. I became a ferocious reader in this time that I wanted to become successful. I've read probably more than 500 books at this point. And I was working in my business, and I was very focused in that sense, and I started to get in shape, and I started to eat better, and all that stuff was going up, but the relationship was still falling apart. I read a book. He's the founder of Lululemon. Lululemon, the clothing brand? Yeah. His book, he talks about something called the Landmark Forum, which is a seminar that he went on. And he said in the book, I always look at my life as before the forum and after the forum. It was a very powerful, beneficial experience. And it's one of the reasons why Lululemon was so successful. And I was like, damn, this sounds like an awesome seminar. Google. 2 weeks later, the same seminar is in Dubai. I'm like, damn, paid in the moment. Paid, go back to reading the book. I'm going. So I turn up at the seminar, Have you heard of the Landmark Forum?
No, I haven't, no.
Right, it blows my mind that people don't know what this thing is. 2.5 million people have done it globally. And I went on there thinking, they give you a call before the call. What do you want to get out of it? Business, money. Yeah, good, great, you'll get that. Fine, I'm awesome, I'm in. Go there, all keen, sit down, immediately realize this is not about money. This is not about business. This is weird. But again, the universe needed to hide the fact that this was a deep dive into self, because I never would have gone on it. And it disguised it through a business book for me so I could go there and receive this gift. It starts talking about life and the voice in your head and what that voice is, and starts talking about past traumas and how we carry them into adulthood. I almost didn't go back for the second day. Go to the second day. On the second day, they talk about parents and your relationship with them. And you know my story with the mum, right? And they said, if you're not speaking to your parents right now, and they did this whole thing, go and speak to them, because you can't live life fully if you don't have a harmonious relationship with the humans that brought you into this world. Very important. So I went off and pretended to call my mum. I ain't called my mum. These people are crazy. We did all these other stuff. I went back for the third day, and they said on the last day at around 5 p.m. you're going to get a realization, and it's all going to make sense. We were sat in these chairs for 12 hours a day. We didn't eat much. We're not allowed to take notes. You just got to sit there and listen, and you are engaged as fuck. Like, you're not bored. And on the last day, things were heating up, right? And people were crying and things were getting tense, and it was like a couple of hours away from this thing, and I was like, I ain't getting this thing they're talking about. Like, no way. Like, I'm just going to finish and go home, and fine, I learned some things, but the hour, the minute, the second that they say you're getting this realization, a bullet hit me in the head, and all the hair stood up on my body. It just rushed through me, and I felt a release. And I cannot say any words right now that will explain this. You have to experience it. But if I was to put it into words and try and put it into words, for the first time ever in my life, I looked into a mirror and I saw why the way I was. Why am I so stubborn? Why do I think I'm unbreakable? Why do I believe relationships are doomed to fail? Why am I thinking of this divorce all the time? All of it, my full personality of life, all the experiences, it was right there. And then the realization was that you don't need to carry that with you anymore. Let it go and be whoever the fuck you want to be. So I was floating after this forum, and although I'd realized that the issues in my relationship might have been me, I still had that ego that was like, nah, it's not you, it's her, right? And then I was like, oh, can it be me? Maybe because of my parents, I don't know. So I went to therapy, and the nice gentleman, his name's Juan, he's from Lighthouse. I was sitting down with him, and he was taking me through things, and he got it immediately. Like, told him my whole story, but he didn't tell me. He wanted me to figure it out for myself. And I had the realization from the forum, and the voices of divorcing had kind of stopped, but they were kind of still there, and there was still a lot to figure out. And we got through all these sessions of therapy, and it was like this thing that was in the room that I could see, but I couldn't say it because I didn't want to admit still. My ego was still just holding on, like, just a few more days and he's going to stay with me. He was like, Cyrus, did you get it yet? And I went, problem's me? He went, problem's you, mate. You've got the issue, not your wife. And I was like, oh, damn. And that's the first time I spoke it out, that I had a problem. And wow, the voices in my head to stop the divorce immediately went away. And I never from that day thought about divorcing my wife again. And I got over the trauma of my parents' divorce through the Landmark Forum specifically, and then the therapy after it. I needed the therapy after it because my ego was so big, but the Landmark Forum, I tell everyone about it. And I don't know why people don't do this. I mean, it's insane how they do it. It's been going since the 70s. And my wife always tells me the best thing you ever did was a Landmark Forum.
Really? Wow. And how long have you been married now?
10 years in April.
Wow. And how's the relationship now?
Amazing. It's not perfect. I mean, we have ups and downs, but
Never is, right?
Yeah, I truly believe, like everything else, our spirits were meant to come together. We were meant to go through all that crap. And I believe that we're supposed to be together. I really honestly believe that we are supposed to be together. And whether we'll last a lifetime together, I don't know. But I do believe that we're supposed to meet each other at that exact time. And again, like I look at through my life and all of these things that have happened, and I honestly believe that we all have a goal, right? You've got a vision for yourself and this business that you're starting, and you have a dream and this life that you want to live, the people that you want to meet, the body and health that you want, the money that you want to earn, the kind of wife and kids that you want. Everyone's got this goal that they want. And I believe wholeheartedly that the universe knows that. The universe knows you want this. So in order to achieve all these things that you want, you need to become a certain type of person. You need to overcome challenges and grow yourself. So when we get a challenge, like my accident in Afghanistan, it's a puzzle. It's a game. You got to solve it so you can level up. And the bigger the vision you have for yourself, the bigger the challenges the universe is going to throw at you, because you have more distance to go. But when we get these challenges, we play victim. And we say, why is this happening to me? This is bullshit. I don't want to go through this. That's a gift. The universe is giving it to you so you can solve it and level up and get closer to the goal that you have for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I've realized throughout my life.
There's a book written by Ant Middleton called The Fear Bubble. And he speaks a lot about that. And it's so true, because you go through life and that's how your brain's designed, right? Your brain's designed to protect yourself. But in reality, all it's doing is making excuses for the things. And I think one thing that I love about the podcast is it's helped me become very self-aware about my own situation. And I think being self-aware is so key. And obviously, I mean, I've had some times with my girlfriend recently which have been really challenging. And I spoke to my therapist about it. And he was said the same thing. He's like, it's got nothing to do with her. It's you. You're making her feel this way because of how you're acting. And it was just, it's very enlightening moment. And it's so important to have that moment of being self-aware. But there's a saying, isn't there, right? Hard times make hard men. Yeah. Weak times. Is it that?
Yes.
Hard times make hard men, weak times make weak men.
Absolutely.
And it's so true, because if you don't go through, there's so much shit that I had to go through for my life to get through where I am today. Yeah. But if I hadn't been through it, and I often think about would I change the path that I've been on? And I think whilst there probably could have been a more constructive path, I am here for a reason. And, I've probably far exceeded what my actual expectations were at the beginning. So you just kind of gotta thank it.
Absolutely. It's all a part of your life, and everything you've been through has happened to you.
Shaped you into that person.
For a reason.
Yeah. And
now you are where you are only because of the stuff that you've got over, man.
Yeah, 100%. So with the old gym then,
yeah.
At what point did you go, right, I want to get out of this and do my own thing?
Yeah, my business partner, or investors, let's say, had promised me, we'd negotiated, it was 22.5% of the business was going to be mine for running it. Don't know how we come up with 22.5, but that was a number. And it became apparent to me at some point that they weren't actually willing to give me that part of the business. It was more of just like a handshake, verbal agreement. And everyone that's into business will laugh and say, you did all this on a handshake with a family member? It's like the worst possible scenario. Yeah. But I was young and keen and wanted to do it. And I'm glad I did it. Even my wife was telling me, everyone was telling me, get out of it, do this and that. But I'm a believer in just walking the path that you feel is right, going with your intuition. And I wouldn't have changed it, because I learned how to run a business through that scenario. I got something from it and a little bit of money at the end when our paths crossed. So during my time in my first gym, I was lucky enough to land a job working for a member of the royal family as a coach. And so I was doing that, and had my clients, and I was just kind of in between things. I always knew I wanted to start a new business. So I was in London with my client, and I saw some concepts that I liked that involved boxing and fitness. I come back to Dubai, and I did what anyone would do in that scenario, and I just spoke to the most successful person I knew in business. And that was a friend that I used to train with in CrossFit called Lee Borg. He's a very successful man. He's like 42, 43 years old. He's into luxury real estate, and he is a go-getter, every sense of the word. So I told him about my idea, and he said, mate, I can advise you and guide you, no problem. Like, you're one of my good friends, no worries. What's the concept? I told him, and he said, okay, how much research have you done? Went to a few gyms in London. Okay, you need to do more research, mate. And he channeled my passion for this new business that I had and guided me and just put my energy in the right direction. So I flew to New York, spent a week there, did like 4 or 5 classes a day, gathering information, taking photos, writing notes. Me and Lee flew to Amsterdam because we liked the look of a gym there called Saints and Stars that was like a very high-end boutique. Did all the research. Along the line, Lee decided, you know what, mate? Love it. I want to jump in with you. You go in 50, come up with half the cash. I'll come up with half the cash, and we'll go in. So half of the cash was 1 million dirhams. I didn't have 1 million dirhams cash. I had some of it that I'd saved, but I had to borrow a bit off my dad and, you know, scrimp and scrape here and there. Come up with it. Started the fit out. We'd invested. Fit out was going on. COVID hit. I remember standing outside of the gym or the building site, and Lee telling me we're going to go into this thing called a lockdown. And I always call Lee Houdini because he knows things before it happens, because he speaks to all these people, right? He says, we're going to go into this thing called lockdown, and we're going to have to stay in our houses. And I was like, what are you talking about? 2 weeks later, we're in a lockdown. I was transferring money from my personal savings account into the business account thinking, I'm never going to see this again, because we didn't know what the hell was going on. We were so unsure. I was like, this is horrible. This is horrible. Boom, boom. But we got through it, and you know, Lee was kind of there to support me and put his hand on my shoulder and say, mate, it's going to be all right. We're going to get through this, and we're going to survive. And for a few times, it was almost not going to survive. You know, don't get me wrong. We had large expenses, and there was no one coming to gyms after COVID. We opened 2 weeks after lockdown.
Yeah, when you launch a business, mate, it's like, you'll know this. Money just disappears.
Hey, it's crazy.
Just dissolves, like goes. It's like, where the fuck has that gone?
That's why I don't make business plans. Someone asked me yesterday, what do you do? Get a spread? I don't do business plans.
I don't want to know how much money I'm spending.
Yeah, you just do it and you figure out as you go along. And it was stressful, man. It was very stressful. Yeah. And
But you opened?
Yeah, we did. And
just after COVID?
Yeah.
After lockdown, but yeah.
Yeah, after lockdown. And with masks, and we went down to like 8 people in a class at one point. We were supposed to have 34 originally. But slowly but surely, I don't count that first year in business as the first year. Like when I'm speaking to investors and stuff now, I'm like, yeah, but it was after COVID. Like it wasn't a normal year. It was tough, but we scraped through, you know, with the help of Lee, my business partner, and just I had a vision for Boxica before I started it. And we had 4 different locations that we were going to set up in. We had a unit in DIFC, one in Al Sakal Avenue, one in Marina in a Damac building, and the one we have in Studio City. And Studio City is very family oriented.
Good location, yeah.
And the type of vision I had for the gym was unintimidating, fun, accessible for everyone, a second home like feel for people. And I thought that type of crowd would live in and around Studio City, right? Very villas, families, and that type of thing. So we built a strong community of people. A lot of gyms say that, right? But if you go on Google and you look at reviews, Boxica for a small boutique, it's got over 200 reviews, and 99% of them are 5-star. And in almost, not almost all, but I'd say like 75% of those, they mention community.
Yeah.
We have a very good community of people.
With any successful business, you have to have a good community.
Yeah. And that's what we did. And that's how we got through the COVID. It was just a relentless focus on building that. And our tagline in the early days of the business was find your inner hero. And that was just some stuff we'd come up with. But during lockdown, after lockdown, when people come to the gym, they kept saying, this is my therapy. This is my therapy. So we changed the tagline to boxing is therapy. And we made it like a second home for people. And we got to a stage in the business where we were like, okay, this studio is working, our boxing fitness concept. People started asking for more. Our customers were like, oh, but we want to, we want to do more different types of fitness. Are you going to open up something else? So that's when we were in like this crossroads where we were now running a profit. We had relatively low overheads. It was 2 million dirhams to open up that one studio. What are we going to do now? And there was 2 spaces available in the building for rent. So we just immediately took them on rent. We didn't know what we were going to do. We were like, let's expand. We took the whole back side of the building. We took these 2 leases, made a cafe and a spin studio, and we did another boxing circuits area, and just like total investment now is like over $1 million, and we're doing way over $1 million in revenue, and we have over 600 members, and it all started with that one small studio, just focusing on building a community.
Yeah. What would you say the biggest parts of you've learned, because your entrepreneurial journey has been quite short so far, so what would you say you've learned so far from the first gym and now Boxica?
I focus on people. That's something that I've learned. If you get the wrong people in your business that haven't got the right vision, and if they're not the right type of personality for your business, especially a service business where you're in front of customers every day, I've learned that.
I heard a saying about that and it was so good because I mean, like in the business that I'm with at the moment, it's kind of like the opposite of this, but I believe strongly in what you've just said there. And I heard somebody say it so well, and they're like, hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah. I've made all those mistakes. I've hired fast, I've fired slow, and through the mistakes that I've learned with people, I've learned how to do it. And what I do is when I'm hiring someone now, I sit down with them and I ask myself, would I hang around with this person if it wasn't for this job?
I don't even ask questions about their education or anything or job experience. I'd want to know them. Absolutely. And if I like them, I'm like, okay, this person can be hired.
Mate, you nailed it, right? It's all on the personality. These coaches are going to be in front of our customers, carrying the message of the community and everything. They have to be good people. They have to be likable, and they have to really care about the job. So I sit down and ask myself, would I hang around with this person if it wasn't work? If the answer is yes, that's ticked. Do they care about the job, and do they care about people? Tick, yes. I don't care how much experience you've got. I'll teach you everything else.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, the people thing, right? And also, I had 3.5 years experience running a business, which was my first one, and I wasn't that experienced. And my business partner, Lee, was experienced. And that was key for me. Partnering with him in the early days was one of the reasons why I am the way I am today in business sense. And he was invested in the business. He was involved massively in the early days. Like, he was there. If I call him 24/7, he'll answer the phone. Mate, I've got this thing going on. What do you want to do? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Do it like this. Great. And over the years of just calling him and speaking to him and having that time with someone that's successful, now I've learned to think like him. Yeah. So if something comes up, my brain goes, what would Lee do? Blah, blah, blah. Do it. And I just make this, I'm confident enough now to do that. But in the early days, I wasn't. I would call him. And like, I've said this recently in a video on my Instagram, like, I called him for 2 reasons. One, because I thought I needed to, because he's my business partner. I wanted him to be involved in everything. But really, if I'm going to be honest with myself, I needed his assurance. I wasn't confident enough to make the decision yet. So partnering with someone that has the experience that you don't, or the confidence, or something that's lacking in you, right? I was the fitness guy. He was a business guy, and it just works.
Yeah. It's a very lonely place, business. And I've interviewed so many people that when I talk about their journeys, I'm like, would you do anything differently? And all the ones that started a business alone said, if I was ever starting a business again, I'd do it with somebody else. And I really resonate a lot with that. And I think it's a good point you mentioned there, is like having that sounding board, and then getting to the point where you've got that courage to then go, right, I can make that decision myself.
Yeah, people, man. Like, since moving to Dubai, there's 4 people that have helped me and influenced me the most. My wife got me off my ass, right? And got me to lit a fire at my ass and actually get something done. My current business partner, he inspires just from pure action. He just is himself, and you're around him and you're like, damn, this guy is killing.
You just, especially the man inside you wants to be like that level of guy.
Just being around him is like, wow.
Because that sort of trait, it's not attractive as in a sexual sense, but it's like attractive in a sense which is like, I'm inspired by that, the aura of that person. That's just Absolutely. Like, and it's like, if we go back to, 1,000 years ago, it's the dominant guy that just goes out and hunts. Do you know what I mean?
He's that guy.
And a lot, I did a podcast with a masculinity coach, and it is funny because that tends to be beaten out of men nowadays, because the whole feminism thing and wanting women to be powerful, and it's like, they can do that, and that's great, and we encourage it, but we should do it together, not one or the other.
Absolutely. We're men. We've already spoke about this. We evolved in hard times, and we thrived, and we fight, and we kill, and we take over. That's in our DNA. Yeah. Can't escape that.
And society over time has just put us on a stepping stone to less of the killing, more of the end. But again, it was one thing that I spoke about recently as well, is like, it doesn't matter what you do, just whatever you do, have a purpose. And I think I went to, again, with a masculinity coach, I met some of the people in his kind of like brotherhood group. And, you talk to a lot of these men and they're lost. And it's like in that group, and they need to be around other men to like bring them out of their shell, because they've kind of followed a life of somebody else, and with culture that you have here. And, it's like arranged marriages, and you should, and everyone's making a decision for you. So you don't, and then you get to this point of like midlife crisis where you're like 45, 50, and you're like, fuck, I've done everything according to somebody else's life, not my own. So slightly digressing there, but like having that aura around is so important, because it's just a reminder of like, every man has that within them. They need it. Like they need that purpose. They need that get up and drive, like need to be the one that's just dominating in a healthy sense as well.
No, absolutely, mate. You're 100% right. We get told by society that we're supposed to be like XYZ, and we're not as men. It's not in our DNA to be like that.
Yeah.
And so we become depressed, and we go on drugs, and we drink lots of alcohol to numb our pain.
Yeah, to escape that reality. Yeah.
We get anxious, and we become shadows of what we're supposed to be. And that's why I say the gifts I got given from the universe showed me, hey, you need to live your life on your terms, right? And hey, I'm going to give you things, and they're gifts, and handle them like a man, and solve the challenge. Don't feel sorry for yourself, and level up in life, right? Or, hey, if you don't set a plan B and you go after your deepest desires, you will do it if you don't give up, right? These are the lessons I got through my life as I went through the things. And
I mean, it's the don't give up part is like, it's something that's just, it's such a simple part of anything that you do. But again, going back to the whole victimhood thing, stuff happens to people, and they just go, I'm just going to protect myself. I'm just not going to make that mistake again. I'm just going to give up. Nah, you just got to keep going. Just make that note of that mistake. Because I've always said the same. You only fail if you give up.
Yeah.
If you keep going, it's just, you've learned a lesson.
Absolutely, mate. Look at all the most successful people in the world. Look at their stories. I've read over 500 books, right? And a lot of them, the ones I resonated with the most were autobiographies. If I get hold of an autobiography,
I love a good autobiography. Love it.
Sucked in. I'm a sucker for them. I try not to start them because it takes too much of my time. I'm like addicted to it,
Yeah.
Men that started in a rags story and made the riches, best books ever.
What is your favorite book you'd say that you've read?
Man. Okay,
you can give us 5.
I just did a podcast about this yesterday, a YouTube video about top 5, but it was top 5 books for making money.
Yeah.
Right. So that's different. It's a different thing. But I believe with books that you should be a reader, right? And I believe again that, I keep saying the word universe, but God, universe, life, the earth, energy, whatever you want to call it, puts things on your lap sometimes. And there's certain periods of my life that I like was in this perfect scenario to need a certain type of information. And a book's come to me and I've read it and it's hit so hard and I've been like, wow, this is what I need right now. You know, and I become obsessed with the book and I listen to it over and over and over and over, or read it. And I just get the information in me. And I believe in the power of the subconscious mind. And I believe if you just hammer yourself with that information and you pour it into your subconscious, it will, you know, you'll act it out and you'll change. So books, I'll tell you one book, the book that I've listened to the most, I'll tell you that book. I used to listen to this book when I work out. I listened to it driving here today, a part of it. And I've always got it at the top of my Audible, and I listen to parts of it all the time. And it's The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Super powerful book.
Really?
It was written in the early, like 1918 or something.
Wow.
Still to this day, the principles in that book are life. It's about money, but you can apply it to anything. That book's just... I've listened to it so many times, it actually changes how you look at certain things in life. I believe I listen to affirmations a lot as well. Right. So before I go to bed, every night, I'll put in my earphones. For the last 10 minutes, I'll put on affirmations and I'll just lie in bed. And what's going on in my ears is, I can, I will, I am, whatever, successful, rich, happy. And I just get that in. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I've got a specific set of earphones that's for the bed. I wake up, I immediately put the earphones in and I listen to the affirmations. I am, I can, I will. And I believe that massively changes how you look at certain things in life, right? You look at something that used to look like a challenge and you think, I can, I will, I am. And you handle it differently. So Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. And there's a specific one when you listen. Do you read or listen?
Both. It depends. It depends on. So what I found really weird is I love listening to podcasts, but I also find that if I listen to a book, I take it in more if I read it. So what I do is I listen to it. If it's good, I then read it.
Perfect. Awesome. Science of Getting Rich.
Yeah.
I'll send you the link to the one I listened to. Because I've downloaded 2 or 3 of the same book on Audible, and one of them, the guy's voice hits different. You have to listen to that one.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. Science of Getting Rich.
So, how is your relationship with yourself now?
With myself?
Yeah.
I got a coach in the beginning part of the year. His name's Wes Watson.
What type of coach?
It was specifically for business.
I know a good personal trainer if you need any.
Right. Awesome. I've actually got a fitness coach as well. Someone that programs for me. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. People ask me that all. I had this conversation.
It was you, by the way. I was just joking.
Yeah. I got that. Someone this morning was like, "What do you do for your training?"
It's never funny if you have to explain the joke.
He was like, I was like, "Oh, I've got a trainer in America," and he was like, "You've got a trainer? You've been a coach for 15 years. You're an expert." I'm like, "Yeah, but
everybody needs coaching.
Everyone needs a coach, right? He programs things for me that I need to do, not that I want to do. He holds me accountable. I have good and bad days, just like everyone else. I've got with this coach, and he's helped me change my mindset a lot. And I'm the type of guy that just needs someone not to tell me what to do, like Lee, my business partner, just needs to live a certain way, and I immediately get it. I just need to be like that if I want some of that, right? So Wes is a coach, and he's a very extreme human being. There's not many people like him on earth.
Where's he based?
America. He was in jail for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he used to be a gangster. He left jail with $200 gate money, and now he makes $3 million a month coaching people.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a very extreme, swears a lot. All the tats, massive, and a lot of people hate him and a lot of people love him. But I went in this coaching group. It was like $20,000, and I got one call with him for 20 minutes, one-on-one, and the rest of it is just the group calls that I can't go on because of the time difference. I just listen to them. But he has helped me re-look at my situation and my life, and all the lessons that I've learned. It's kind of just reminded me of what I've been through, and that I am stronger than what I think, and I can achieve everything. And he's helped me instill discipline into my routine again. Right. So right now, going back to your question of how are you with yourself? I'm very strong-minded, very focused, and laser focused on my goals of life and to achieve where I want to go in life. That's where I feel unbreakable at the minute. I wake up 4:30 in the morning every morning. It sucks, but I do it because I'm building self-confidence. I'm building trust. I'm in great shape, and it never was always like that. You can see on my social media when I was a trainer for so many years, I was out of shape, and I instilled that discipline in me. Again, I mentioned it earlier. Like, people think because you're in the military that you automatically have discipline. You don't. It's the environment. When you go into civilian life,
you get taught it, but you have to implement it.
Yeah, you have to have self-discipline here in the real world, right? No one's disciplined. You haven't got a commando to scream and shout at you when you don't do things that you need to do, right?
Get off your phone, Cyrus.
Yeah, like, you can come home from work and you can eat a load of crap. Nothing happens. You can skip the gym if you want. You can stay up late. You can go out boozing, and you can drown yourself in this poison if you want. You can take drugs. No one's going to tell you what to do, right? So in civilian, outside of the military, you need self-discipline. You need to discipline yourself. You need to build habits. And I did that from, alcohol drinking, beach bummy style life to who I am today. It's just from instilling habits and being disciplined with myself, eating the food that I needed to eat, not that I wanted to eat, waking up at 4:30, because by doing so, I'm creating time of the day that no one else is up, that I can work on my goals. And also, it sucks waking up that early. So every time I do it, I build a little bit more confidence, a little bit more self-trust. People ask me, how'd you do it? Why'd you do it? If you're out there and you're struggling with discipline, the first thing you can do is contact me and I can coach you. But you've realized that getting in shape, getting your body in shape, right? You're obviously in great shape yourself as well. And
thank you.
When you do that, you build a level of self-trust and confidence that people that are out of shape don't have. Because what happens is they're out of shape and they hate it. No one's out of shape and says, wow, this is great. I'm awesome, healthy, looking good. No, you're not. You don't believe that. Like, seriously, be honest with yourself. You want to be in shape. And what happens is people say, I'm going to go on a diet. And they start a diet and they do it for 2 weeks or a month.
I hate that word, to be honest.
Diet.
Yeah, I hate it.
They want to get better, right? They want to lose weight. They want to be in shape. So they start looking at their food and they start training. And into it, at some point, they fail. They give up, right? You said it yourself earlier. You only fail when you quit. They do that. So they've told themselves they're going to get in shape. They've started the routine. They've done it for a while, and then they stop. What level of trust do they have with themselves?
They don't believe, their brain doesn't believe them.
The subconscious laughs at them. I'm going to earn this amount of money. Ha! There he goes again. I'm going to get into this type of relationship. Ha! I'm going to ask my boss for a raise and this. It's all a joke. No, you've got no trust in your own word. When you actually get in shape, which is hard for people to do, and you stay on your diet long enough and you go to the gym and you build that body that you had, that vision. Now, when you tell yourself, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, it's different.
I think that is actually like the starting point for anything that you need to do. And it's funny that you say that, because I wake up similar to you, not 4:30, but 5 o'clock every morning. Even if I don't want to, I wake up at that time now because my body's programmed to it. But I'm like, if you can do that at the first part of the day, and it's actually one of the most enjoyable parts because it's so silent. It's like there's nothing going on. It's so peaceful. Yeah. My routine every morning without fail is wake up, go downstairs, make myself a coffee, and I sit in the garden on the floor with my legs crossed in my boxer shorts, and I just meditate for about 15 minutes.
Awesome.
And I just think, and I'm like,
mate,
what is my brain? And I've only actually started doing that routine in that order since I moved into this house. So It's only been a couple of months since I've been doing that, but I've always woken up at 5 o'clock. I either would, I'd either go and sit in the garden and have a coffee before, but the whole meditation thing, I start to introduce that more. And I tell you what, it's one of my favorite parts of the day.
Yeah, mate.
Going for walks. I love being alone with my own head. You know, like I love thinking about things, you know, and for me, it's like an accustomed thing now. I do it all the time. If we ever go on travels with lads, I always go there either before or stay a little bit after, so I can have some time alone.
Right.
And I always say to everyone, like, if you can't figure out what's going on in your head, like, how can you expect anyone else to?
Yeah.
So I got into this habit of just going downstairs every morning, making myself a coffee, 5 a.m., sitting in the garden, meditating. And for me, it was like, it's changed. It's changed. Like, I mean, I've always been into, like, you know, the fitness in the morning. I train every morning in the morning. I was like, how do you do it? And I'm a big believer in, if you get the hardest things done at the beginning of the day, you're like unbreakable for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I could easily like lay in bed, you know, and cuddle my cat and stay in that warm bed and, you know, but I'm like, nah, like this is a part of like building, like say, confidence in yourself. It's like building a bulletproof mindset that I'm achievable to do anything. And I think what is key about these moments is everybody gets fixated on the end goal. Whereas if you just focused on making those tiny little steps.
Oh, mate.
Those, like, it's like everybody wants something now. It's always like, you know, I want to take testosterone, growth hormone. I want to do this. I want to get, you know, a tummy tuck. I want to get, and it's just like, it's so simple. Like, if you want to achieve something in your life, just start making the steps. And now, like, you don't have to go an extreme, but just try something small. And then the next day, try something on top of that. And then all that effort over a period of time will compound, and then you will have that, you know. And I think one of the best ways to kind of as a life kind of example is Warren Buffett. You know, the guy didn't become a millionaire until he was like, I think in his early 50s or 60s, but he just kept investing, and now he's one of the most renowned investors. And like, as you said, you can apply that to any part of your life. You just have to start tomorrow. Don't wait for New Year's. Don't wait for this. Don't wait for that. Yeah. Just start tomorrow and start with a small step. Maybe that is waking up at 5 a.m. for the first time. Yeah. Then going for a walk or whatever it might be. But yeah, the second you say you're going to do something and then lie to yourself, it then just implements all this doubt, which will then tell you that here's your imposter syndrome. You know, whereas if you install yourself with confidence, I'm not saying you will never hear the imposter syndrome, but it's a lot easier to put it to sleep when you've installed loads of confidence in yourself and real life data. Yeah.
Mate, I say the exact same thing to my clients. I had a client a few days ago. He wants to start waking up at 5 a.m. and he come on board with me, and his main focus was weight loss. And I told him, it is about the weight loss for you, and we're going to focus on that, and we're going to get it off. But in the process, you're going to change. You're going to start trusting yourself more, and you're going to start achieving much more in your life from losing the weight. And he wanted to start waking up at 5 a.m. And this last 2 weeks, like 2 weeks ago when I met him, he said his goal was to wake up at 5 a.m. But his alarm's been going off and he's been snoozing. And I said exactly what you've just said to him. I said, mate, you're losing weight and you're moving forward, building this confidence at one side, right? And you are feeling better in yourself, right? And he's like, I'm feeling awesome, man. I've lost 5 kilos. It's only been a few weeks. I'm loving it. And I said, but on the other side, you've told yourself you want to wake up at 5 a.m. and you're not doing it. You're hitting snooze. So you're building confidence on this side and then you're losing it on this side. I was like, if you either tell yourself you're going to do it and do it, something that's achievable that you can do, so you start building the confidence, or you don't do it. Mm-hmm. The worst thing is to be in between. Yeah. And exactly what you just said, mate. Small steps done consistently over time builds massive amount of self-confidence. And the discipline that you build with yourself and your personal habits, going to the gym, getting in shape, infiltrates all aspects of your life. Your business mind, right? You look at someone and you shake their hands and you look at them in the eyes with a different kind of confidence when you have self-discipline. Yeah. They feel that energy in you. So what kind of deals are you going to go for? What kind of life are you going to create? How are you going to speak to people? Your communication with people is key in this world, right?
I find it as well when a lot of my clients, and I talk about my lifestyle, and it's almost like they have admiration for me because they wish that they could do what I do. Don't get me wrong. I'm fortunate that I don't have children and stuff like that because it is just my time. But I do feel like they look at me and think, I wish I could do that. But anybody can do it. The difference between me and them is that I just get up and do it, and they just get up and don't do it. Do you know what I mean? So, but listen, I really have enjoyed this conversation. I think it's one of the longest conversations that I've actually recorded before, but I was dialed in from start to finish. So thank you very much for joining the podcast.
No, thank you for having me. I
hope you had a good time.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was a great conversation, man. I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm just like bigging ourselves up. Like, yeah, it was a great conversation, but genuinely it was such an awesome conversation.
Great,
it's great to sit down and have a chat with like-minded people. And there's a lot of wisdom that people can take from this. So if you are listening to this still and you're at the end, I'm sure you're going to be listening to that thinking, wow. So thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it, giving me your time. I just want to provide as much value as physically possible because once upon a time, I was in a place where I was stuck, lost, and I didn't know what to really do with my life. So if I could have this back then, it would have been a life-saving. So it's kind of the driver of why I do what I do for this podcast is so I can at least help one person. If one person just messages me and says that podcast was amazing, then I'm a happy man. So until next time, guys. Also, don't forget to give me a 5-star review. But yeah, until next time, guys. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And we'll see you again soon.